welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something kind of weird.
Yeah.
And a little unsettling, honestly.
Okay.
It's this question.
Okay.
Do some humans exist just to fill space? Like, are we all equally aware and conscious and, driven by purpose?
Right.
Or are some of us more like
Yeah.
background characters in this human drama? You know what I mean?
I think it's a question that's plagued philosophers and scientists for centuries.
Yeah.
And the sources you've gathered offer a fascinating mix of
I think so.
perspectives.
Yeah.
We've got philosophical treatises on consciousness, deep dives into ancient religious texts, even explorations of AI and the limits of algorithms. Buckle up, because we're going deep.
Okay, so let's start with consciousness itself.
Okay.
One of our sources, David Chalmers, makes this distinction between basic awareness and self-awareness. He gives this example of a dog encountering a fire hydrant.
Right. And Chalmers argues that even a dog probably experiences some kind of awareness of that fire hydrant. Even if it's not like reflecting on it the way a human might.
Right.
So that raises the question, does this imply some baseline level of consciousness across species? And if so, how does that relate to the idea of background people? Could it be that some people just operate at a different level of awareness?
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have those days where we're just going through the motions.
Total.
Almost like we're on autopilot.
Yeah.
Maybe these background people are just folks who spend more time in that less aware state.
But what determines that state? Are we just wired differently?
Yeah.
Or is there something more at play? This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Our sources on Gnosticism offer a completely different take on awareness and human potential.
Okay, Gnosticism.
Yeah.
Now, for those of us who aren't
theology scholars.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Gnosticism is this ancient tradition that emphasizes gnosis, which basically means knowledge or insight, but not just any knowledge. It's deep, intuitive understanding of the divine and our place in the cosmos.
So how does that relate to background people?
Well, Gnostics believe in this concept of
nous,
which is this divine spark of intelligence within each of us. It's what drives learning, creativity, and our ability to connect with a higher reality. They contrast this with the view, often found in more mainstream religions, that humans are inherently flawed and need to be saved by some external force.
So it's like two different operating systems for humanity. One that emphasizes our innate potential, and one that focuses on our flaws, and this need for redemption. And the Gnostics were pretty critical of those salvationist religions.
Interesting.
They saw them as potentially limiting. Because if you're constantly focused on seeking external redemption, you might be less likely to tap into that inner drive, that nous, that allows you to explore, create, and evolve.
I'm starting to see where this is going. If some people aren't cultivating their nous, maybe they're more likely to become background people. But are we saying they're choosing that? Or is it something else?
That's the million-dollar question. And it leads us to one of the most controversial figures in this whole discussion, Paul the Apostle.
The apostle who spread Christianity throughout the Roman Empire. What's the Gnostic take on him?
Well, one of our sources, Robert Eisenman, has done some fascinating, albeit controversial analysis of the Dead Sea Scrolls and early Christian texts.
Interesting.
He argues that Paul's teachings were heavily influenced by a Jewish sect called the Zaddikim, who were known for their, let's just say, intense beliefs.
Intense in what way?
Well, the Zaddikim believed in these entities called archons.
Archons? That sounds...
It kind of is.
Ominous.
The Gnostics saw these archons as deceptive forces that offer humanity a fake deal
Oh.
They promise power and dominion over the material world.
Right.
But it comes at a cost.
Okay.
We become trapped in their illusion and lose sight of our true potential.
So wait, are we talking about literal supernatural beings here?
Yeah.
Or is this more of a metaphor?
That's the beauty of Gnostic thought.
Okay.
It works on multiple levels.
Okay.
Some interpret the archons as literal entities,
Right.
while others see them as representations of these negative forces within ourselves, like fear, greed, the desire for control that can keep us stuck in the background of our own lives.
Okay, so we've got these archons.
Yeah.
Potentially influencing us from the outside or maybe from within.
Right.
But what about our internal capabilities?
Yeah.
Is there something inherent in some people that makes them more susceptible to becoming background people?
That's where Roger Penrose comes in with his work on computability and the limits of algorithms.
Oh, wow.
This might seem like a left turn, but trust me, it all connects.
Algorithms, like the things that control our social media feeds.
Well, think of an algorithm as a set of rules.
Okay.
Or instructions for completing a task.
Okay.
And a Turing machine.
Okay.
Is this theoretical model of a computer that helps us understand what kinds of operations are computable, meaning they can be carried out by following a set of rules.
Okay, so we're talking about the fundamental nature of computation itself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, Penrose, who's a brilliant mathematician and physicist, argues that the essence of human understanding, especially mathematical insight, goes beyond what can be captured by any algorithm.
Really?
He believes there's something about our minds that transcends mere computation.
So are you saying our brains are more than just...
That's what Penrose proposes.
Oh, wow.
He suggests there might be a deeper level of reality, perhaps connected to quantum mechanics, that allows our minds to grasp truths that no computer ever could.
Quantum mechanics, that's the stuff of subatomic particles and parallel universes.
Right, and it's notoriously weird and counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But Penrose believes that quantum processes might be happening within our brains.
Wow.
Specifically in these tiny structures called microtubules.
Microtubules.
He suggests that these quantum effects could be the key to understanding consciousness.
So instead of just firing on or off, like the bits in a computer.
Exactly.
Our brains might be harnessing the strangeness of quantum mechanics. To create something far more complex and mysterious.
Exactly. It's like our brains are tapping into a level of reality that goes beyond the limitations of classical physics and computation. And this might be what allows us to have those aha moments, insight, to make intuitive leaps that no algorithm could ever predict.
Okay, so how does this tie back to background people?
Well, if Penrose is right, then it's possible that some people are more attuned to this non-computable aspect of reality. Maybe they're tacking into this quantum level of consciousness in a way that others aren't.
So instead of being less aware, maybe they're actually more aware. But in a way that's difficult for us to grasp.
That's a great analogy. It's like they're tuned into a different frequency altogether.
And
it makes me think of Penrose's fascination with the Mandelbrot set.
The Mandelbrot set.
Yeah.
That's that incredibly intricate fractal image, right?
Yeah, it's the one.
The one that looks like a psychedelic bug.
Yeah, and it's generated by a surprisingly simple mathematical equation. But when you zoom in on any part of the Mandelbrot set, you discover infinite complexity and detail. It's a perfect example of how simple rules can give rise to breathtaking emergent properties.
So are you suggesting that some people, those we might perceive as background people, actually possess a similar depth of inner complexity that we just haven't learned to appreciate yet?
That's a brilliant insight. It's like they're a hidden dimension of the Mandelbrot set, just waiting to be explored. And it challenges us to reconsider our assumptions about intelligence and awareness. Maybe we're too quick to judge based on external behaviors and accomplishments. Perhaps true depth lies in those unseen realms of consciousness. The ones that defy easy categorization or algorithmic prediction.
Wow. This is getting pretty mind-bending.
I know, right?
So we've got the Gnostic idea of nous, this divine spark of intelligence. And Penrose's suggestion that our minds might be tapping into quantum processes. Are those two ideas compatible?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it gets to the heart of this whole exploration.
Okay.
See, both ideas point to a level of human potential that transcends our current understanding.
Okay.
The Gnostics emphasized the power of inner knowing.
Okay.
This intuitive wisdom that connects us to something larger than ourselves.
Right.
And Penrose suggests that our minds are capable of understanding truths that go beyond the reach of any computer or algorithm.
So maybe they're both pointing to the same underlying reality, just from different perspectives.
Yeah.
One is more spiritual or mystical, while the other is more scientific and mathematical.
Exactly. And perhaps the real challenge is to bridge those two perspectives.
Right.
To find a way to integrate the intuitive wisdom of the Gnostics with the rigor of scientific inquiry.
That would be quite a feat.
It would.
But it also seems like the only way to truly understand the full spectrum of human potential.
Absolutely. And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that integration is already happening both within ourselves and in the collective consciousness of humanity.
Interesting.
Perhaps those we perceive as background people are actually the pioneers.
Okay.
The ones who are paving the way for a new era of understanding.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about consciousness and this potential for hidden depths.
Yeah.
But what about those external forces we mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
Those archons. How do they fit into all of this?
Yeah.
Are they real entities?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Remember the Gnostics saw the archons as these deceptive forces that promise power and control, but ultimately keep us trapped in this limited reality.
So like those tempting but ultimately harmful distractions that keep us from fulfilling our true potential.
Think about all the things in our modern world that compete for our attention.
Yeah.
Social media, consumerism, the constant barrage of information.
Right.
Could these be seen as modern-day archons, vying for our energy and keeping us from tapping into that deeper level of awareness?
It's like we're constantly being pulled in 1,000 different directions.
Right.
Never fully present in any one moment.
Yeah.
Could that be part of what contributes to the feeling?
It's certainly a possibility worth considering. If we're constantly bombarded with external stimuli, it's difficult to cultivate that inner stillness and focus that allows us to connect with our true potential.
So how do we fight back against these archons? Whether they're
That's a great quote.
External forces or internal distractions?
And I think the answer lies in developing discernment.
Discernment.
The Gnostics emphasize the importance of not just acquiring knowledge, but also being able to distinguish between true wisdom and deceptive illusions.
So it's not just about being aware.
Precisely.
But about being aware in a discerning way.
And that requires cultivating critical thinking skills, questioning assumptions, and being willing to challenge those who seek to control or manipulate us.
And maybe, just maybe, that ability to discern is one of the key distinctions between those who become background people and those who actively shape their own lives.
That's a powerful insight. And it brings us back to Penrose's work on the limits of algorithms.
Right.
If our minds are capable of understanding truths that go beyond any computable system, then we also have the potential to see through those manipulative tactics that might not be immediately apparent.
So instead of just being passive receivers of information, we have the ability to actively analyze, interpret, and make judgments that aren't dictated by external forces. Or pre-programmed algorithms.
Exactly. And that ability to think critically and independently might be one of the most important tools we have for navigating the complexities of the modern world and avoiding the traps set by those who seek to control us.
This is all incredibly fascinating.
It is.
But I have to admit, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by all these different perspectives.
Look,
we've got
it all.
Gnosticism, quantum mechanics, algorithms, archons. It's a lot to process.
I understand. It's like we've been on this whirlwind tour of the most mind-bending ideas in philosophy, science, and spirituality.
Exactly. So how do we make sense of it all? How do we bring all these threads together into some coherent understanding of background people?
Well, maybe that's the point. Maybe there isn't one single definitive answer.
Okay.
Maybe the real value of this exploration lies in the process of questioning, challenging our assumptions, and expanding our awareness beyond the limitations of conventional thinking.
So instead of looking for a simple explanation, we should embrace the complexity and mystery of it all.
Exactly. And perhaps that's the key to unlocking our own potential. Whether we see ourselves as background or foreground players in this grand human drama.
Right. I'm game for embracing the mystery.
Okay, good.
But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, I'm curious to hear more about this idea of quantum consciousness.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that Penrose believes that quantum processes might be happening in our brains.
Of course, this is where things get really mind-bending.
Okay.
One of the key principles of quantum mechanics is this idea of superposition.
Okay.
Which means that a quantum particle can exist in multiple states.
Superposition. That rings a bell. Wasn't that something we discussed in our deep dive on parallel universes?
It's the same concept.
Wow.
And Penrose proposes that something similar might be happening in our brains.
Right.
That the neurons or even the microtubules within the neurons could be existing in these superposed states. Allowing for a kind of quantum computation that could give rise to consciousness.
So you're saying our brains might be operating...
It is wild.
Like quantum computers.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Now, this is still a very speculative idea. And there's a lot of debate among scientists about whether quantum effects could actually play a role in consciousness. But it's a fascinating possibility to consider.
It definitely opens up some incredible possibilities. So if our brains are capable of quantum computation, does that mean we have access to information beyond our normal senses?
Well, that's where things get really philosophical. And to be honest, a bit beyond the scope of our current understanding. But it's certainly intriguing to think about.
This whole deep dive has been incredibly thought-provoking.
Good.
I'm starting to see the world and the people in it. In a whole new light.
I'm glad.
But before we wrap up, I have one final question.
Okay, shoot.
If quantum consciousness is a real thing, does that mean our thoughts and intentions could have a direct impact on the physical world?
That's the question that's been debated for centuries. And it's one that many different traditions and schools of thought have explored, from ancient mysticism to modern parapsychology. There's certainly a lot of anecdotal evidence to suggest that our thoughts and emotions can influence reality. But proving it scientifically is another matter entirely.
And that's where the limitation of our current scientific methods come into play. Maybe we're dealing with phenomena that are simply beyond our current ability to measure or even comprehend.
Exactly. And this brings us back to Penrose's insights on the limits of computability. If consciousness itself arises from a non-computable aspect of reality, then it stands to reason that our scientific tools, which are based on computable models, might not be adequate to fully grasp its nature or its full potential.
So maybe the real question isn't whether quantum consciousness exists, but rather what possibilities it opens up for us as individuals and as a species. If we can harness the power of our minds, if we can tap into that non-computable realm of awareness, who knows what we might be capable of achieving?
That's a powerful thought. And one that brings us full circle. Back to the idea of background people. Perhaps the real distinction isn't between those who are background and those who are foreground, but rather between those who are consciously choosing to engage with their full potential and those who are not.
So instead of asking whether some people exist just to fill space, maybe the real question is this: are we choosing to fill our own space?
That's a fantastic way to frame it. And it leaves us with a challenge to step out of the background, to become active participants in shaping our own realities, and to explore the vast and uncharted territories of human consciousness.
Well said. This deep dive has been an incredible journey.
It has.
And I'm so grateful for your insights.
Oh, you're welcome.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to step more fully into the foreground of my own life.
Excellent.
But before I go off and conquer the world, I'd love to hear any final thoughts you have. on this fascinating topic.
I'm delighted to hear you feel inspired.
Yeah.
It's been a true pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise.
And as for final thoughts,
yeah,
well, I think it's worth remembering that this deep dive has just scratched the surface of what we know or think we know about consciousness and human potential.
Yeah.
There's still so much to discover.
Right.
So many mysteries yet to be unraveled.
It's amazing to think we started with this question about background people and ended up diving into quantum mechanics and the mysteries of consciousness.
Yeah, it really shows how ideas are all connected.
Yeah.
And how even simple observations can lead to fascinating intellectual rabbit holes.
Totally. And, thinking back on everything we've talked about, it seems like this whole concept of background people might be a bit of a misnomer. Maybe it's not about some people being inherently less aware or conscious.
Yeah.
But more about recognizing that we all have the capacity for both.
Okay.
Yeah. Times when we're fully engaged.
Sure.
And times when we're more in the background.
Yeah.
Just observing and integrating experiences.
I think that's a really insightful point. It's we're all constantly shifting along this spectrum of awareness.
Right.
Depending on our circumstances, our choices, and even our brain states.
We've all had those days where we're just going through the motions, right?
Totally.
Almost on autopilot.
Yeah.
And then there are those times when we're completely immersed in the moment, firing on all cylinders, feeling deeply connected to everything around us.
Exactly. And perhaps those seemingly passive moments, those times when we feel like we're in the background, are actually crucial for integrating experiences, processing information, cultivating that deeper awareness that allows us to make more conscious choices later on.
That makes me think of the Mandelbrot set again.
Oh, yeah.
Those areas of apparent emptiness actually define the intricate patterns and boundaries of the whole. Maybe those we perceive as background people are actually playing a vital role in this grand tapestry of existence.
Yeah.
They might be like the silent observers, the integrators of experience.
Yeah.
The ones who hold space for others to shine.
That's a beautiful way to think about it.
Yeah.
And it emphasizes that diversity of experience is essential for the evolution of consciousness as a whole.
Okay.
We need the creators, the innovators, the ones who push boundaries and challenge norms.
Yeah.
But we also need those who reflect, who contemplate, who provide a different perspective.
It's like we need both the soloists and the orchestra.
Precisely.
To create a truly beautiful symphony.
And perhaps by embracing this diversity,
by
recognizing the value of all forms of awareness, we can create a more harmonious and interconnected world.
So maybe the real takeaway from all this is that there's no one right way to be human.
Right.
There's no hierarchy of awareness or consciousness.
Right.
We all have our own unique roles to play, our own contributions to make to the evolution of the collective.
That's a profound insight. And it kind of liberates us from the pressure to conform to a particular model of success or achievement. It allows us to celebrate our individuality, to honor our own unique way of being in the world.
And who knows, maybe by embracing this diversity, by recognizing the value of all forms of awareness, we can create a more harmonious and interconnected world.
That's a beautiful vision.
Yeah. And I think it's a fitting note to end our deep dive on. But before we go, I want to leave you, dear listener, with one final thought to ponder.
All right.
If consciousness is indeed a spectrum, and we're all constantly shifting along that spectrum, what choices can you make today to step more fully into the foreground of your own life? What intentions can you set to cultivate your nous, that divine spark of intelligence and creativity within you? And how can you contribute your unique gifts and perspectives to the grand tapestry of existence?
That's a wonderful challenge to leave our listeners with.
I hope so.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey of exploration.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep diving deep, keep asking questions, and keep expanding your awareness.